The Damocles Golf Crusade by Pontius.
Did I change the number to 7 from 6? Or what did I do? Hello, Pio.
Okay, everyone, buckle up. Today we talk of heavy 40k lore again, and it will be something that I never thought we would even think to cover.
Don't tell me. Alpha Legion lore.
Pio, I am autistic, not utterly insane.
Oh, come on. Alpha Legion lore is not that bad.
Are they loyalists or traitors? Oh god, I hope this doesn't become a series.
Oh my god.
Countless conflicts are etched in the annals of the Tau
I'm turning off the...
Wars or Radiant Triumph.
Sorry
and
about that, but
campaigns
I'm
of
turning them
crushing
off.
defeat. Yet there is one day remembered with absolute dread by every Tau. The day where they stood face to face with the true inexorable might of the Imperium of Men.
Motherfucker, where did that chat come from?
Ah, so it's a Tau video. We
Yes.
had nothing more interesting to cover than the Bluefish people.
We did, but I lost a bet with the Patron members. So this is on them mainly.
I am starting to question if they love us or hate us seeing the stuff they ask us to cover.
So, here we are. As promised, today we will cover the Damocles Golf Crusade. We'll see if we can fit it in a single video or it will become a small series. But before people get worried, because it is renowned that I can't stand the Tau in any way, shape or form. As I consider them pretty much like the Imperium, but with a lot more lies involved. Because while the Imperium hates things openly, the Tau and especially the Ethereals mask their hatred with their ideology. I will not leave out any detail or
Most
change the
perfect, that's
story to fit my
understandable.
views. I will be as impartial in the retelling of the events as I have always been. Because as a lore YouTuber, I am here to tell you how things went, and not my interpretation of what happened. So, don't worry, the Tau will be done justice too in this video. Even if I
Nice.
question the life choices of every Tau fan ever. And please, remember to subscribe, leave a like, and even a comment if you want. You can't understand how boring some of the lore I researched for this video is. So I would appreciate it just for my lost brain cells. Anyway, before starting the video, as usual we want to thank the members of
Are they loyalists or traitors? Yes, since no matter who comes out on top, Cuz wins. So out of 2 options, they took the third. Sabotage it. Both loyalists and
our
traitors alike.
Discord, of our
Damn.
Patreon, and of our YouTube channel for all their support and help. Remember that you can now support us on Subscribestar and Ko-fi
Okay, that's
too, in
fine.
case you don't want to use Patreon. And that we are now on Twitch, where you can find us discussing lore while playing 40k games. Now, obviously the Damocles Golf Crusade has been an event discussed extensively in the community. The first true war of the Tau Empire against the Imperium of Men. Unfortunately, as usual, a lot of myths and memes are around this war too. And as you would have understood by now, as fun as myths and memes can be, we are here to discuss lore. So, where to start on the Damocles Golf Crusade, if not from the event that directly caused it? The second sphere expansion of the Tau Empire. We need to go back to millennia before the Damocles Golf Crusade. In fact, we go all the way back to 018 M39. The first sphere
Damn.
expansion by that point had been a resounding success, with the Empire gaining more and more territory and even new allies, especially in their armies with the addition to their forces of the Krut species. But a specific
Oh.
breakthrough will be the reason the second sphere expansion even became possible. What kept the Tau from expanding even further at the time was the lack of faster-than-light technology for their ships. But that problem was solved when the Falshia Sept of the Tau Earthcast will finalize the development of something called the ZFR Horizon Accelerator Engine, a powerful new technology that allowed ships to attain near light speed.
Prepare yourselves for a lot of funny sounding Tau names. I'm still very fond of Commander Tequila, to be honest.
So, in 018 M39, the Tau Ethereal Supreme, Anwei,
Man.
declared the massive preparations for
Of
the
course
new
they have
expansion
alcohol
completed.
names when I'm
The Tau
fucking
launched the
drunk.
second sphere expansion, branching outwards from each of the up-centers of the first sphere colonies. Great fleets speared into the dark, spreading the greater good to worlds that were unreachable before. As they were pushing more and more into space and establishing new septs, a legend would arise from the armies of the Tau, also known as the Firecast, the greatest military thinker and strategist of his age, and perhaps
I've heard
any
of the
other,
Firecast
Commander
before.
Puretide.
Puretide. The great commander Puretide takes control of the second sphere expansion, conquering half a dozen star systems in the name of the greater good. His brilliant career will be celebrated forever by the Tau, especially those of his birthworld Daleth. Puretide's legacy too is preserved forevermore. After injury cripples the aging commander, he is retired to a retreat atop Mount Kanji, where he teaches the very best Firecast students. This is a role his holographic ghost continues to this day.
Commander
Okay.
Puretide will be a
Goddamn.
central character in the Second Sphere expansion, toppling entire star system.
Isn't he also the guy that at the end also what is it? Excommunicated, like went away and made his own thing?
In his campaigns of conquest and protecting newly established Tau Seps. It was said that even the orcs of the region grew to fear facing an army led by Puretide. The last breakthrough of the Second Sphere expansion was the successful crossing of the Damocles Gulf, a mysterious region to the galactic east that had long thwarted all attempts by the Tau to pass through. Once on the other side of that region of unnavigable space, the Tau swiftly established new colonies and outposts. And there they will make contact with the single largest power in the Milky Way galaxy, the Imperium of Men. The Tau are now encroached upon many planets within the area of space known to the humans as the Timbra subsectors of Segmentum Ultima. And this will be the beginning of the end of the Second Sphere expansion. Now, there is a bit more to explore about this first contact than first meets the eye. Because you will think that the moment a new race of Xenos appeared in Imperial territory, the Imperium would arrive blasting. But that is not exactly what happened. The first contact the Tau had with humans was not with the Lords of the Imperium, but with dissident elements that were operating on the fringe of the mighty Dominion. The Tau first encountered free captains, pirates, and lost human colonies that had regressed so much that they had long forgotten their origins and any connection to their distant birth world. Those initial contacts ranged from friendly trade negotiations to instant hostility. The Tau diplomats were aware they were dealing with outcasts of an incomprehensibly large galactic empire at this point. The worlds claimed by dissident humans were soon annexed into the Tau Empire. But some in the Tau High Council were worried that overt aggression might lead to a war they could not win. The leaders of the Firecast called to start hostilities with the Imperium of Men. But it was
But it would be a war they would not win either way.
Va, an Ethereal second in authority only to the Suprema Wei, who determined the plan. The Watercast were to integrate themselves into human worlds loyal to the Imperium, insinuating themselves into the courts of planetary governors. Eventually, a score of worlds within the Imperium were trading with the Tau, even in preference to each other. Alien goods and especially coveted Earthcast technology flowed through these markets in blatant contravention of Imperial law. And then, the time to initiate the second phase of Aunva's instructions arrived. Upon those worlds deemed ready, the Watercast envoys had planted the seeds of rebellion in the mind of the human rulers. And one by one, the planetary governors declared themselves and their worlds free of the shackles of the Imperium's rule. It had taken decades to achieve, but the Tau spread more rapidly and with fewer losses than even the most brilliant military campaign could have achieved.
Karizan leaned in towards Lucian. Normality, even sanity apparently returning once more. The voices belong to my brother and sister astropaths, my master. And the song they sing is of such beauty because they all sing the same message. Every astropath for 10, 20, 30 light years sings the same message. Lucian nodded his encouragement, determined not to interrupt the man now that he was finally making some sense. They sing words of freedom. Lucian sat back, rocked to his core by the news. They sang of freedom, a relative notion in the Imperium of Man he knew, and invariably one much closer to heresy. Recidivism or revolt. Every world within anything up to 30 light years. There might be dozens, scores even of civilized systems, each with a population of many millions. How? Who could have instigated such a thing? More to the point, he realized, who could have coordinated it? The logistics of the treachery were truly staggering. The possibilities stretching out before Lucian as he struggled to imagine them.
And as the worlds began rising into open rebellion against the Imperium of Men, the Tau fleets started moving in Imperial territory to welcome every single one in the Tau Empire.
The servitor at the communications station squealed machine nonsense as its implanted appendages worked the dials and levers across its console. Indicators lit, telling Lucian that the servitor had isolated and intercepted a wideband broadcast from nearby. A moment later, a voice rang out across the bridge. The signal perfectly clear, the words flawlessly high Gothic.
We come as allies to the domains of Ares, and invoke the friendship of comrades in arms. This world, as per previous concords, is declared a protectorate. Your warriors are granted the honor of service to the Firecast. Your messengers and pilots will soar under the
Fuck. Your warriors are granted the honor of service to the fire caste. To loyalists? Oh. This will be a bloodbath even Korn enjoys. God damn.
Wings of the air caste. Your scientists will gain learning and purpose under the supervision of the earth caste. Your leaders and merchants will learn words of wisdom and mutual profit under the tutelage of the water caste. And all will endeavor towards the ultimate greater good, under the guidance of the Blessed Ones, under the protection of the Tau Empire.
Lucian stood stunned. Not at the fact that an alien race was seeking to gain influence over a human world, than much he had seen before. No, it was the scale of what he was witnessing. This was mass betrayal. Carrison had reported that dozens of systems for light years around were declaring their independence from the Imperium of Man. Here, he knew that he saw the instigators of that treachery. Alien fleets no doubt closing in on dozens of worlds, declaring that the planets were under their control and
Hello,
presumably
Iron.
being welcomed with open arms by the treacherous leaders of those worlds. He spat on the
Rex
cold
shotgun?
metal back. Someone will pay for this, he promised.
So they behaved almost exactly like a Gene Stealer
God
squad,
damn.
and people still think they are the good guys.
The Imperium's response to such sedition was slow in coming, but when it finally arrived, was characteristically brutal. The Tau had just provoked an enemy they could not hope to defeat.
Since first entering space, the Tau would experience
Goddamn.
success after success, guided by their ethereals. Each caste had overcome every obstacle yet encountered, and none could doubt Tau ascendancy. On the far side of the Damocles
damn.
Gulf, however, the Tau faced an enemy unlike any other, and the epic clashes that followed heralded the beginning of an entire new age of battle.
To put it extremely simply, this is what is going to happen.
See, as you can see, the more you fuck around,
The more you
the more
find
you can
out.
find out.
Oh no! Ooh, the poor Tau. Classic indeed. The more you fuck around, the more you find out.
Now, before going to how the Crusade itself was fought from both sides, we need to see this series of events from the Imperium's perspective. Keep in mind, this is very old lore, directly from 3rd edition, so it might not be the canon series of events anymore. But I have not seen them contradicted anywhere, so until then, we will consider them how the story went. In the year 742 and 41, the Damocles Gulf Crusade would be declared by the side of the Imperium directly in the elitist sector of the Damocles Gulf. A string of Imperial subsectors stretching out between the Gulf and the Perdus Rift anomaly has suffered extensive disruption due to Elder Pirate raids and Warp Storm's activity. As the Imperium strove to restore its grip in the region, it was discovered that a previously unknown alien race called the Tau were allying with and integrating into their empire worlds under the control of dissident Imperial factions. The peril of these alliances was evident in the number of alien goods and artifacts appearing in the nearby systems. Inquisitorial investigation revealed evidence of Tau activity in adjoining sectors. The conclusion was that they represented a major threat, and Cardinal Esau Gurney of Brimlock officially called for a crusade to be dispatched to purge the aliens. This call to a crusade became stronger when word reached the High Lords of Terra that the worlds they had controlled in the Timbra subsector on the eastern fringe were no longer paying tithes, and worse still, that their planetary governors were in charge.
Those fucking space tax, bro. The space tax, if it doesn't get paid, the crusade is on. After listening to the whole Bad Up War, I cannot think of it as anything but space tax. Oh, God. But, to be fair, this time it's a little justified. Just a little bit.
to a Xenos race. So the Imperium started to organize and unleash what we know today as the Damocles Gulf Crusade.
Go on. The astropath now had
Fucking
Lucian's
fish-faced
complete,
fuckers.
undivided attention. The forces of these aliens are even now flooding the entire region. Everywhere to the galactic
Truly,
east
the
of
most
the
powerful
Damocles
thing
Gulf. The
I see.
secessionists are announcing to all who will hear them their joining of this alien empire, this Tau Empire. But, Carizan continued before Lucian could interrupt. But I have been monitoring the distant voices of the Imperium. What of them? Lucian asked. sensing that life in the Timbra subsector was about to get very interesting indeed. A crusade! The astropat's voice cracked as he yelped with something resembling religious ecstasy. Lucian had never before seen the old man so animated. A crusade is being preached even now, my master. Cardinal Gurney preaches war against the Tau. He denounces their lies, and already others have pledged aid or service to him. Who?
If you think the Bad of War was funny, wait till you get into the Age of Apostasy.
Lucian's mind raced as he considered the possibility unfolding before him. Who pledges aid to this Gurney against the Tau? Why? Replied Karizan. The fleet, of course. And Brimlock masters even now. 5 regiments and more. 5
God
regiments
damn.
of God have no hope of... Not just them, Karizan interrupted. Lucian let him continue. Inquisitor Grand of the Ordo Xenos, the Astartes, the Iron Hands, the Emperor's Sides, even... And here the astropath leaned towards Lucian. The White Scars.
The Imperium would organize a relatively small military force and deployed it to retake control in the territory in and around the Damocles Gulf from the Tau invaders.
Hold on, who was it? Who? Dropped it. Inquisitor Grand of the Ordo Xenos, the Astartes, the Iron Hands, the Emperor's Scythes, even, and here there's just the White Scars. All right, let's fucking go.
Towards Lucian. The White Scars.
The Imperium would organize a relatively small military
The
force
Intergalactic
and deployed it
Revenue
to retake
Service.
control in the territory in and around the Damocles Gulf from the Tau invaders. The crusade was based around a dozen capital ships and included 90 regiments of Astra Militarum forces and 5 provisional companies of Space Marines made up from elements of a dozen chapters. And if we follow the lore explained in the 8th edition Space Marine Codex, strangely enough, the crusade was under the command of an Iron Hands captain.
The Damocles Crusade. The Iron Hands commit several clan companies to the Damocles Gulf Crusade. Judging the other Space Marine chapters present to be too weak, Iron Captain Rumen assumes command. Under his ruthlessly
Goddamn.
efficient leadership, the Tau are swiftly overwhelmed.
Iron Hands fans are eating good today. Don't worry. They will probably starve for the rest of the year.
And now that we have covered both perspectives and the forces that are being deployed to fight against the Tau Empire, it's time to get into the battles fought in this war. This is the story of the Damocles Gulf Crusade. The first contact of the Damocles Gulf Crusade against the Tau happened in the High Dust system. 7 Tau warships of approximately cruiser displacement were detected on the edge of the system. The Crusade fleet attacked immediately, but found the Tau ships to be capable of launching powerful torpedo salvos at long range, breaking up the Imperial formation. The fleet unleashed bombers on the enemy ships, but
The Emperor's Scythes were created in honor of Barbaros Dentioch. I have no idea who that
these
is,
were
though.
countered by Tau escorts
Dantioch.
launched from the capital ships. It will be a Space Marine strike cruiser supported by Imperial Navy frigates to make the decisive attack. Getting inside the Tau formation, they inflicted heavy damage and discovered that Tau ships lacked broadside firepower. This forced the Tau fleet to disengage and retreat. But one Tau ship was unable to withdraw from the engagement and exploded while the crew was in the process of abandoning their craft.
Even if, by following the lore of the Rogue Trader Omnibus, these ships were equipped with railguns for offensive capabilities, Tind very easily overwhelmed the ships of the Crusade in more than one occasion.
The next engagement of the war will come shortly after, with the landing on the planet of Silkel. The Silkel system contained an apparently fertile agri-world, with a population estimated at 7 million Tau. It was defended by a Tau orbital station, a number of system ships, and the remnants of the Tau fleet encountered at Hydas. The Crusade Council appointed Captain Ramman of the Iron Hands to take overall command of the planetary assault. The Imperial
Goddamn.
fleet first assaulted the space station, fighting against the ships defending it as Space Marines boarded it, slaughtering all the Tau they found inside. The Tau fleet was believed to be there not in defense, but to take on refugees and essential personnel from the planet, which would explain why they disengaged almost immediately and retreated from the conflict in its entirety as fast as possible. As the space station was conquered, the planetary assault started. Heavy landers of the Imperial Guard going down, supported by the war machines of the Aeronautica Imperialis, while the drop pods of the Iron Hands, White Scars and Scythes of the Emperor flew down like meteors to begin the assault on the planet in fall. As the Space Marines established beachhead
The loyalist Iron Warrior who turned against Perturabo and stayed loyal to the Emperor. I have still no idea who you're talking to, I'm sorry.
and landing zones, the Imperial Guard forces started landing in ever-increasing
Barbas Dantioch was the greatest warsmith of the Iron Warriors. He's also responsible for the Tyranids. Oh.
Numbers.
Okay,
While
now
the
I
Space
know.
Marines moved to achieve their objectives, especially the White Scars under command of veteran Sergeant Sarek that were tasked with taking down the enemy leadership, the rest of the Crusade engaged Tau troops for the first time. The answer to the invasion was swift and consisted of an extremely well-equipped mechanized infantry formation with armored support. Tau Grav tanks, designated as Hammerheads, appeared to be a close match for the Imperial Guard Liman Rasses. The Imperial Guard formation suffered heavy losses when the enemy infantry wearing heavy jump armors ambushed them in rolling ground. Only the swift intervention of the 4th Stormtrooper Company and the sides of the Emperor averted a bloody massacre. As the fighting continued on a relatively lightly defended planet, the White Scars finally reached the command
Are the White Scars the fast boys?
bunker system where the Tau leaders were coordinating the defense. After fighting against drones using stealth technology in the darkness of the bunker, finally Sergeant Sarek reached the main command structure. And there he found the leader of the planet preparing to fight in honorable combat in his battle suit.
An
The
intentional.
Tau commander drew himself to his full height, ignited his suit's jet, and leapt to the floor before the Space Marine. Only 10 meters separated the two warriors, affording Sarek a view of the weapons his adversary carried. He saw instantly that the Tau was equipped for a ranged fight, apparently lacking any form of weapon that could be used in a melee.
Men,
The Tau said to Sarek's surprise.
though we may be enemies, I am duty-bound to offer to you our friendship. We need not fight, you and I. What say you?
Though taken aback by his enemy's question, Sarek answered in the only way he could. Tau, we are foemen. If you wish to surrender, the choice is yours.
The coagulators believe there is more to life than hate. I hate them.
The square device atop the Tau's armor, which Sarek took to
And
be
yes,
some form
they are
of
the fast
armored
boys.
sensor
Hell yeah.
block, dipped, perhaps in sadness.
You misunderstand me, human.
The Tau replied.
I do not offer you my surrender. I offer you my friendship, and that all of the Tau. You must join us, or we must fight.
It took Sarek a moment to assimilate the alien's
Yes,
words,
yes.
for no foe had ever asked him to surrender and to join him. Such a thing was utterly unthinkable, the very notion causing Sarek to bristle in anger. If you truly expect me to throw down my arms and join you, then you do not know honor after all, said Sarek, thumbing the activation stud on the grip of his chainsword and causing it to growl into angry life.
I do not ask you to throw down your arms, for I, like you, am a warrior, and know well what that would mean. I offer you common cause. If you join the Tau Empire, then you may fight for a cause truly worthy of your life. Join the Tau Empire, and we might fight together, not against one another.
You insult me with words, Xenos, spat Sarek by way of reply. Enough with words. Now we fight.
I am feeling the incredible urge of learning Mongolian throat singing now.
Sarek ended up disabling the commander's battlesuit after a violent fight, managing to take him back alive for interrogation by the Inquisitor attached to the Crusade, Inquisitor Grand. At this point you have to keep in mind that we are still in Imperial territory, reconquering planets that were taken from us by the Tau infiltrators. To reach the heart of the Tau Empire and take the war directly to the enemy, Imperial forces now needed to traverse the Damocles Gulf, a very dangerous and unstable part of the galaxy that even in the Book of Star of Damocles is considered a barrier separating two different parts of the galaxy. In fact, in the same book as they traverse it, a lot of shit happens, including even a demon invasion on the ship of Lucian Garrett, the main character we follow in this trilogy, head of the rogue trader house of Arcadius. As the fleet made arrangement to cross the Damocles Gulf to the Imperial designated subsector of Kendral, an expeditionary force was sent to deal with the Tau presence in the Vissel system. Early reconnaissance had revealed the sixth planet to be an ice-covered water world, on which the Tau had established fishery colonies. As no great strategic benefit was evident to controlling the planet, it was subjected to orbital bombardment, melting the ice around the main colonies and destroying them. After a 5-month journey across the Gulf, the Crusade arrived in the Dalit system within the Kendral subsector. The outermost planet, Prayen, was protected by an orbital station, and was clearly intended to provide the first line of defense for the entire system. The fleet approach was too casual, assuming the station to be no more dangerous than the ones already encountered. It proved to be much more formidable than predicted, mounting an array of heavy railguns whose first volley crippled the honor of Damlas. The fleet broke formation just as 11 Tau ships emerged from behind Prayen. Keep in mind that the retelling of this battle varies between the codices and the novel of Star of Damocles, but the results are pretty much the same. The fleet escorts attacked the orbital station, while the main battle fleet swung towards the Tau ships. The Tau fleet concentrated its attacks against the Regent Lakshimbai, a Dauntless-class light cruiser, which resisted superbly until a lucky shot caused massive bulkhead collapse, which in turn triggered a plasma drive overload, destroying the ship in the violent energies of a newborn sun that disappeared a few moments later. The advantage would be won when the ship of rogue trader Lucian Garrett plunged through the Tau flotilla, subjecting it to violent broadsides as it got perilously close to their main flagship. As the fleet moved to disengage, as they had no broadsides capabilities of their own, the rest of the fleet catched on with them, including the Blade of Woe, the flagship of the main admiral of the Damocles Gulf Crusade, bombing the entire fleet to pieces at the cost of 4 of the 12 mainline ships of the Crusade. Now, before continuing, there is something I want to point out for everyone. There is 3 mainline explanations of the invasion of Dalit Prime. There is the explanation documented in the Tau Codices, the storyline that follows Lucian and the White Scars in the final book of the trilogy of the Rogue Traders, Savage Scars, and the storyline followed in the book Blades of Damocles by Phil Kelly. Useless to say, there is a lot of lore contradictions between each others on what happened and how things truly went, especially in the book of Blades of Damocles. So we try to stitch together the entire story from the 3 different retellings in the best way possible. But to know all events in detail, you will unfortunately have to read all of the different versions for yourself. But I have a personal vendetta against Blades of Damocles, and before this video ends, it will get what it deserves. Dalit was a marginally different beast to tackle than all other planets of the Damocles Gulf Crusade that invaded by that point. It was not a recently converted Imperial world or newly founded colony, but instead it was a Tau Sept world, heavily populated and heavily defended. And unfortunately for the Imperials, the best commanders of the Tau Empire were all present on it. Commander Puretide was on the planet, together with his pupils, Icewind, Shadow Sun, and Farsight.
For comparison, imagine trying to invade Ultramar while Marneus Calgar, Cato Sicarius, Severus Sageman, and Fidel Ventris are all on it ready to defend the planet.
As the Imperial fleet reached low orbit on the planet, what was known as Operation Pluto would commence. An all-out Imperial assault starting with the forces of the Space Marines drop-podding near the main cities and outposts of the planet in designated landing zones, securing them to allow the Imperial Guard and the Titans of the Mechanicas to deploy on the planet, as the Space Marines moved out and attacked vital infrastructure and communication relays of the Tau world.
Sarek activated the tactical display within his helmet. Reams of battlefield and command scripts suddenly appearing across his field of vision. Status runes indicating that the 6 White Scars drop pods were all safely down, and the 30 warriors were all deployed as per their mission orders. A line of text scrolling across the lower portion of his vision told him that the other Space Marine contingents were also on the way, each with the objective of destroying one of the sensor pylons that formed an extensive network across the entire surface of Daleth. The White Scars were one of the smaller contingents amongst the 200 or so Space Marines accompanying the Crusade. The Ironheads, Ultramarines in the size of the Emperor, far more numerous. The Ultramarines in the size of the Emperor were each spearheading one of the other 2 main assault groups, with the smaller squads of the other chapters each attacking a secondary objective. Despite this, or perhaps because of it, Sarek was determined that his chapter would claim its share of the glory, and he would lead his brethren to victory. General Gage's main force would only be able to land once a bloody wound had been torn in the heart of the aliens' defense network. Satisfied that the assault groups were all on target, Sarek scanned the surrounding area for his own objective. A kilometer distant, in the midst of a cluster of tall rock columns, Sarek located the massive Tau sensor pylon. "White Scars!" Sarek shouted above the high-pitched whip crack of Tau projectiles splitting the air overhead. "Move out!" With savage joy welling within him, he added, "Let's complete our mission before the Ultramarines complete theirs." Gage faced Lucian and the others of the Crusade Council who had assembled to witness the assault on Daleth Prime. "Gentlemen," the scarred, craggy-faced veteran soldier addressed his fellow councillors. "Phase 1 of Operation Pluto is underway."
As orbital batteries hammered into the Tau defense positions, the Ultramarines instead decided to deploy to invade the city of Gelbrin directly, the capital of the planet and the only city equipped with a starport platform. While at the beginning the Ultramarine squads that landed, commanded even by Sergeant Numitor and Sergeant Sicarius.
Yes, that Cato Sicarius before he became captain. I'm observing you. Quote a meme and I'm biting you.
found success in overwhelming the Tau defenders, that success will soon fade. The Tau had gathered a lot of info in the invasion of their outlying colonies on the strengths and strategies of the human forces, and had already prepared a defense plan to counter the invasion of Dalit. Armored transports and mantas of Tau fire warriors started deploying and assaulting the Ultramarines' landing zones, supported by some of the pupils of Commander Farsight that deployed in heavy battlesuits to counter the advance of the Space Marines, armed with more powerful weapons to bypass their resistance and armor. The Space Marines were soon repelled from their landing zones and forced to take shelter in the Tau structures they had already conquered, as they were being targeted by concentrated strikes all over the surface of the city. The Ultramarines in response would even deploy ancient dreadnoughts to contend with the battlesuits decimating their forces. But while this move would prove slightly successful, it was still not enough. And it is here that one of the Tau commanders would realize how ancient and hateful the species they were fighting against truly was. After defeating one of the dreadnoughts that had been deployed, Commander Bravestorm made the mistake of looking inside.
Bravestorm held his plasma rifle steady and extruded a hand from his battlesuit shield gauntlet. Gripping the blackened metal of the machine's midsection, he carefully lifted the flaking hull plate up and outward, leaning forward to peer inside. The creature that stepped back made his breath catch. A twisted and grotesque figure was trapped inside, all barrel chest and atrophied stumps. It stared up at him from sunken sockets, its undisguised hatred almost palpable. Wires and tubes penetrated its horrifically abused body in 100 places. It wheezed, red-black fluid spilling from a broken jaw that worked and gummed as if it could click back into place through willpower alone.
God
A
damn.
glut of milky liquid poured from around its sutured waist as it jerked, spitting a gobbet of half-clotted blood onto Bravestorm's ochre paintwork. Bravestorm's sensor suit performed a threat analysis as the liquid burned through his synth layer. The clot was laced with a potent acid. The commander recoiled as the thing's stink was filtered through his olfactory relay, and the battlesuit jerked upright in response. His auto-trans flashed, spool script rendering the creature's slurred words in the Tau lexicon. Dying in pain, a foreign worm thing. Standing upright, the commander placed a hoof-like foot upon the creature's torso and triggered the punch cylinder under its soul. A thin tube of titanium thumped into the thing's winged flesh before withdrawing with a neat click. The device was intended for geological analysis, installed by the Earthcast to be used whenever the Tau set foot on a new world. But Bravestorm knew from experience he could read biological information just as well. Keeping one eye on the plasma rifle's designator, he used the other to scan the assessment screen in the rounded corner of his cocoon. The necrotic thing was human, or a close derivative. Extensive tissue damage, rejuvenation scars, and the commander looked again in horror. Somehow, the vile thing was over 6,000 years old. A macabre realization crept through Bravestorm's mind. This abomination had been trapped in its armored war coffin long before the Tau's ancestors had first emerged from their caves. What manner of enemy were they fighting upon Daleth? Kill me, vexing fool, spooled the autotrans. Kill me, or I shall haunt you until death. Bravestorm triggered his plasma rifle, and the creature met its final oblivion.
The drop was heavily contested, but in the end proved successful. The Ultramarines, specifically Numitor and Sicarius, even ended up engaging in combat against Commander Farsight. Their efforts heavily wounding and almost drowning Farsight when they disabled his battlesuit over a reservoir. Farsight will manage to escape the two Ultramarines just barely. With the direct invasion of Gelbrin countered, the armies of the Imperium started landing on the planet with ever-increasing frequency. The heavy landers of the God Machines unleashing Imperial Titans on the planet, while the Imperial Guard coordinated with the Space Marines to prepare an advance on the capital. The mission of the White Scars and the other minor contingent would be successful, and the communication pylons of the Tau were reduced to rubble by melta bombs. It is at this point that the armies of the Imperium will commence their advance through the planet to reach and attack once again Gelbrin, to conquer it and corner the Tau on the planet, as they could not get reinforcements or
I love melta bombs.
retreat without control of the starport. Lucian Gerrit would even deploy on the ground to fight in command of the Rakarshan Rifles Imperial Guard Regiment, and they followed in the wake of the Space Marines, the armored formations and the Titans as they advanced like a spearhead for the rest of the human forces. As they advanced towards the capital, however, things will start to complicate. Ever-increasing presence of drones, battlesuits and especially stealth suits will start causing problems to the formation. Those problems became a lot more urgent when the first first Titan of the Mechanicas was destroyed. As the Warhound Titans advanced like a spearhead towards the city of Gelbrin, Tau Mantas, guided by their artificial intelligence, were stalking hidden in the vegetation surrounding the main road of the city, and using a support contingent of Tau spotters, started raining missiles on the advancing armored formations.
They were feeling pretty confident. Then the mountains started walking.
The first salvo of missiles was repelled by the Warhound voice shields, but the second was too much even for them to contain.
And then another salvo of missiles came screaming in from a high angle. The faintest glint of red light reflected from the side of the Warhound's canine head. A second later, half a dozen missiles slammed into that exact point. The Warhound's void shields had been stripped, and even though the ornate cockpit was heavily armored, it exploded as the missiles struck. The mighty war machine staggered backwards, its machine system suddenly bereft of control. "Get clear!" Sarek bellowed, ducking back inside his carrier as the driver gunned its engines. "Animus Ferox is wounded." Folding down a periscopic sight, Sarek witnessed the last moments of the Animus Ferox as his armored carrier powered away from the Titan's awesomely destructive death throes. The Titan shook, as if its war spirit fought to keep its crippled form upright even without the guidance of the Princeps, who had been killed the instant the missiles had destroyed the head. Then, one of its mighty clawed feet slipped, and the towering machine listed precariously to one side. The last thing Sarek saw before his rhino bore him away was the entire machine toppling to the ground, thick black smoke boiling from the rugged wound where its cockpit head had been. Then Sarek's rhino was shaken violently as the Warhound hammered into the road and an instant later exploded. Secondary
shit.
explosions ripped out, the rhino's driver fighting all the while to maintain control of the bucking armored transport. Orange flames licked at the edge of Sarek's scope, and the pristine white heraldry of his transport was turned to scorched black by the raging fires of the Warhound's destruction.
At that point, Space Marine squadrons needed to be deployed to take out spotters and protect heavy armors and titans. This and the violent defense that was now forming from the Tau forces on the planet ended up splitting the spearhead into infantry, Space Marines, and heavy armor supporting titans. It is during these assaults that Lucian and the Rakartian rifles would encounter the Krut forces for the first time, being repelled back by their numbers and the savagery they showed, seeing them devouring the corpses of the fallen even while under last gunfire. The Tau counterattacks stole the momentum of the Imperial advance, and the front stabilized on the line of a broad river some 20 miles north of Gelbrin. The forces led by Farsight and Shadowsun started repelling attacks that advanced on the city and destroying marines and transports wherever they could be found as a matter of urgency. And fighting on the planet went on day and night, with the nights being especially deadly as the Krut advance could proceed in stealth between defense lines, and the Tau battlesuits were a lot better equipped for combat in the darkness. Meanwhile, Squad Numitor and Squad Sicarius ended up infiltrating an Earthcast underground complex to try and advance on a presumed command location 100 miles from the capital. Advancing above ground was impossible as the Tau had air superiority and could bomb them to pieces before they even got close to the command bunkers. It is here that one of the most famous Cato Sicarius moments would happen, and I'm including it only because I think Ultramarine fans would crucify me if I didn't. The moment Sergeant Numitor and Sicarius came face to face with a Tau diplomat for the first time.
"You shall not escape, Xenos!" he shouted, storming forward with anger writ large upon his features. The Tau civilian was lying close at hand, fallen on the far side of the room amidst a confusion of shattered plastics. Its dark almond eyes were wide open in some alien approximation of terror. Numitor's lips curled back involuntarily at the sight of it. The Tau was little larger than a Calvine Ute, with a malnourished look to it. Its long, frail fingers reached towards him imploringly. It smelled of meadow flowers over the antiseptic tank of bleach, and the beat of its heart stuttered on the cusp of his hearing.
"Wait, Sire Warrior."
It said in perfect High Gothic.
"I'm no threat to you. I'm regarded poorly even amongst my own kind."
Is that fucking Plum? Plum? What other woman would voice act this? for Pontius? Like what?
Numitor's brow furrowed. The creature's voice was strangely human. Somehow, it was speaking with the tones of a young woman, with a McGregor accent at that.
"You have the bearings of a
It's
knight,
Lum.
sire.
Oh shit.
It's sad, its accent becoming even more refined.
An honored and noble warrior tradition. I see in the heraldic devices you wear. They're the marks of your forefathers, are they not?"
Numitor raised his pistol, debating whether or not to waste another bolt. The creature knew too much about them already, that was plain.
Would your forefathers be proud to see you cut down a helpless, unarmed female?
You are Xena scum. You are not an unarmed female. There is no distinction. You shall be embraced in the mercy of the Emperor in the afterlife.
The young Tao, her honeyed voice, all innocence but for the barest hint of reproach.
Would the king amongst kings
Don't
you
care.
must
Soul
venerate
track.
be impressed? He whose code you follow?
Numitor thought of Robute Gilliman in that instant, of how the Primarch would have acted in this situation. In truth, he was unsure. Amante had the creature's eyes fixed on hers, its repulsive face twisted in crude caricature, as warring emotions passed across it. She could do this. She had it partially entangled in her full lasso already. Her hand crept slowly, painfully, to subtly press-click the cabinet where she had hidden her pulse pistol. At this range, it will take a single pull of the trigger, especially if she was lucky enough to make a headshot. The human warrior was mighty indeed, but slow of wit. It wore its psyche plainly on its features. Even though it was bestial in appearance, it was dressed in armor that bore honor markings and medallions, giving hints of a warrior brotherhood that valued glory and accomplishment. It was a simple, unsubtle angle she had taken, to play to the monster's twisted sense of justice, but it was proving effective. Already the creature was hesitating, bound by the contradictions of its own value system.
Yeah, but that will only work once.
It was as the Golden Ambassador had once said. Notions and codes can stay Akila's hand as effectively as any net. Perhaps it will be enough.
I am nothing to a lord such as you.
She continued, her deft fingers finding the handle of the pulse pistol and curling to bring it inch by inch into her grip.
Our own warrior caste does not match itself against harmless civilians. Instead, they seek to engage the strongest foes they can find, the better to win true glory.
The brute was listening. If she could hold its attention for a few more moments. Numitor stared down at the Tau civilian. The creature was a weakling, almost despicable. But part of him had to concede it at a point. If the Space Marines were to kill the planet's civilians as well as its military, the campaign on Daleth will soon grind to a halt. Perhaps his energies were better spent elsewhere.
Many of our warrior castes dwell just beyond this chamber.
The young female continued.
Worthier opponents for a true knight, who values honor and skill. Would you instead choose to sully your hands with the blood of unarmed civilians?
Yes.
She brought a blocky pistol out from nowhere, whipping it towards Numitor's head. Yes, said Cato Sicarius, barreling past his fellow sergeant to stamp the creature hard into the floor. Numitor heard its ribs break into flinders within its chest. Sicarius spat on its corpse, pushing onwards into the gloom. Shaking himself free of the creature's mental manipulation, Numitor set off after his brother, the clatter and stamp of charging ultramarines close behind him.
As Numitor, Sicarius and his forces advance more and more into the underground laboratories of the Tau Earthcast, they would end up entering a combat simulation zone where they would have to face experimental weapons of the Tau, including heavy stealth and combat battlesuits. But to their horror, one of the enemies they ended up facing was not a Tau, but other Space Marines. The Tau had recovered armors of the Ultramarines directly from previous engagements and bioengineered simulacras of Space Marines to train their own troops in battle.
Sicarius shoulder-charged Numitor hard, smashing him aside and taking the killing bolt on his pauldron instead. It was not the first time he had taken a hit from a bolt shell, but its detonation still hurt like hell. He turned with the impact and pivoted in a sweeping circle, his tempest blade lashing out to take the barrel from the Space Marine's bolter before he could fire another shot. "We're on the same side, damn you!" shouted Numitor as he scrabbled upward from the sand. Shock and protest mingled in his voice. 9 more unidentified Ultramarines were converging on their positions, bolters raised to the shoulder. Sicarius readied his blade. That was the gun stance of Tau line infantry, not that of the Adeptus Astartes. These were not allies. This was not a case of mistaken identity. This was the twisted science of the Tau writ large. Sicarius read the battlefield at a glance. In the middle stands, the silhouettes of incoming assault marines were getting closer, gaining on the much closer tactical marines. They were hurtling over a wasteland of crushed ember and verdigris brass, vaulting bombed-out ruins that jutted at all angles. Sicarius remembered the crunch of that shattered ember underfoot, The memory fresh from when he had crossed swords with the Tau for the first time. The war zone was a perfect replica of Vespetine's suburban desolation. Now, however, it was his own brethren he would fight.
And this is the last time we will cover events from the Book of Blades of Damocles, because from this point on, the book contradicts canon lore pretty much of all codices and books written before it. As I said, this book is going to get what it deserves in a bit. On the surface, the situation only got worse. The Tau will move mainly at night to assault the Imperial-held positions, moving at extreme range only to withdraw at dawn. Space Marines combat patrols helped, but the losses continued to mount. Meanwhile, in space, a new Tau fleet was forming from the inner part of their empire to counter-invade Dalit and annihilate the Damocles Gulf Crusade for good. The reinforcements that had been promised to the advancing crusade never materialized, most probably for interference of Inquisitor Grand.
Wait, why would the Inquisitor stop the reinforcements?
Scipio, Lucian and the Inquisitor, together with Sarik and Ramman, are part of the Crusade Council, a congregation of influential individuals like Cardinal Esau Gurney and others that will decide by vote how to proceed during the Crusade and how to continue the fighting. Gurney and Grand were part of one of the two factions of the Crusade. We can call them the Annihilationist and the Diplomatic factions. To put it simply, for example, the Admiral, the General of the Imperial Guard, Lucian, Sarik, and some others were of the idea of not destroying the Tau completely. Just make a show of strength to keep them away, and maybe even conquer and enslave them under the Imperium. While instead, Gurney, Grand, and others were of a different idea. Exterminate all of them, doesn't matter the method. If exterminatus, even better.
And?
As the Crusade ground to a halt on the planet, Grand made his move. He dissolved the Council under his inquisitorial authority and announced that all human forces on the ground were to evacuate in 24 hours. If they failed, Grand would deploy a virus bomb on the planet, no matter who was left on it. He pretty much gave the Imperials an ultimatum: get off the planet or die with it. Keep in mind, I am jumping a lot of events of the Rogue Trader trilogy because they don't connect directly with the military efforts of the Damocles Gulf Crusade. This trilogy is filled to the brim with imperial politics and intrigue. So, you will have to read it yourself to see the background authority battles fought in the Crusade between factions. The lack of reinforcements meant that the Crusade was completely outmatched in case of the arrival of a new fleet. And more Tau reinforcements were touching on the ground of Dalit every single day. At this revelation, General Gauge, Lucian, Sarik, and Ramman formulated what would become known as Operation Hydra. At this point, they were fighting Croods, battlesuits, and even stealth suits of the Tau on a daily basis. And they had only 24 hours left before the planet would be destroyed. Operation Hydra was the last move the diplomatic faction could make. A lightning fast advance committing all of their forces to reach the city of Gelbrin, passing through the river, and an untouched bridge that connected to the city directly. All forces moved together. The Titans of Legio Thanataris moving supported by all the contingents of Space Marines left on the ground by that point, with their transports and Predator tanks, with the Imperial Guard and their armors following closely behind. A desperate final assault against an increasingly desperate defender. As the forces started moving towards Gelbrin, the resistance of the Tau stiffened. Some of them even equipping their battlesuits with the equivalent of plasma bombs for self-destruction if disabled. The Titans started pocketing the city of Gelbrin with their weapons as they passed in the water, while the Space Marines cleared the bridge and shot at everything that moved on the opposite side with little mercy. The advance won them a lot of ground, but they ended up stopping again in the assault of the city a mere 5 miles from the starport. At that point, more and more transports of the Tau were visible, but not ferrying reinforcements, but evacuating them. The Space Marines kept their honorable stance in all of this, as did the Tau. The Tau refused to attack surrendered troops or Space Marine apothecaries on the battlefields, and the Marines did the same, letting the Tau recover their deads unscathed and evacuating civilians without interruption. The battle continued for all day and all night, until the Space Marines conquered the last bunkers at the base of the spaceport, assaulting it directly and even downing a Tau transport suspected of carrying on it people of importance and even Ethereals. The battle was won, but at an high cost. Hundreds of Marines lay dead, together with tens of thousands of guardsmen and several Titans. This wouldn't really stop the plan of Inquisitor Grand, however, that still wanted to bomb the planet. He only stopped when an envoy of Lord Inquisitor Kribnan arrived to the Damocles Gulf Crusade flagship, demanding an audience with all of the members of the Council. The envoy of Lord Inquisitor Kribnan carried a very single order: retreat, regroup, and converge on the planet of Ultramar. A new xenospecies of incredible power and ferocity was just discovered, and was advancing towards the homeworld of the Ultramarines. And for those that have the knowledge to understand, this was the Tyranids, and their very first Hive Fleet attacking the Imperium, Hive Fleet Behemoth. This still will not stop the plans of Inquisitor Grand, that still programmed to exterminatus the planet anyway before leaving, but he will get his comeuppance anyway. I will not spoil how, it is satisfying in the books to read. At that point, the Tau were expecting Imperial reinforcements to arrive, while the Imperials
Someone
knew
know
that there
about
were
it.
none,
Damn.
and now they had to
Feels
retreat
bad.
by order of Inquisitor Cryptman. In the end, the Tau could have encircled and destroyed the Crusade fleet, but thanks to the lies of the daughter of Lucian, Brielle, that has a more overarching story in the background of
God
the Crusade,
damn!
they believe this attack to be only
The
a probing
women of the
effort by
Imperium,
men.
bro.
So they decided, seeing the situation of both their forces and those of the enemy, to ask for a parley, that the Imperium granted.
Then the Tau had come before the council. Few of those crowded into the council chamber had even laid eyes on their foe. In fact, most had never before confronted any type of sentient alien. When Aura and his Firecast honor guard had entered the chamber, utter silence had descended. The Space Marines had watched impassively, not acknowledging the alien's presence, but at least refraining from pumping a magazine full of mass reactive explosive rounds into their heads. The Adeptus Astartes had far larger concerns than the Tau. Sarek had told Lucian before the session, concerns that made these comparatively benign aliens pale into utter insignificance. The initial discussions had been stilted and difficult, with the Tau envoy making all manner of veiled threats. Yet Lucian had brought into play every ounce of his diplomatic skill, drawing on a lifetime's experience of trading with all manner of societies and races the length and breadth of the Imperium. With Rain's blessing, Lucian had imparted something of the coming Tyranid swarm, though he had twisted the truth to suggest that the Tau were actually more danger than the Imperium. It was hoped that in doing so, the Tau would allow the Imperium to depart unopposed while they fortified their worlds against the coming storm, and cause them to focus all of their efforts against the Tyranids. Whether or not the envoy had entirely believed him, Lucian could not be sure, but regardless, face was saved and honor maintained, and the Tau had not only agreed to allow the fleet to disengage, but the seeds of future cooperation had been sown.
Both sides ended up retreating to lick their wounds, and this was the official end of the Damocles Gulf Crusade. I don't get why Lexicanum includes the battles of Viorlos on the same page,
What
as
the
the battle
fuck?
happened after the Crusade retreated, and mainly because the Scarlords were left stuck in the Damocles Gulf because of warp interference, but to be honest there is no other place to place it, as it was an independent battle fought against Tau forces, so I won't hold it against Lexicanum. Now
Alright,
both the
fair
Imperium
enough.
and the Tau had measured each other's in battle, assessing the power of each other's in the meantime, and gaining a newfound respect for their armies. But while this was not much for the Imperium of Men, the invasion of Dalit would end up scarring the Tau Empire for generations to come. As we learn in the book of Farsight, Christ
These beings, these creatures, they're older than our whole civilization. You will bleed, Tau scum.
of Fate, where Farsight would remark that while the Watercast was
Basically.
trying to spin Dalit as a glorious victory, it was anything but.
The commander had long held the opinion the Watercast was pitching its agenda a little too forcefully. It was a falsely bright summation of the war, and it did little honor to those who had given their lives to win it. The rebuilding of the city was complete. The stories of conquest so well told they were like old friends. But there was not a soul upon Daleth who had remained unaffected by the Imperial invasion. For the
Imagine
Watercast
if
to
they
pretend
had
that
actually done the Exterminatus. Oof.
Tau had won an unequivocal victory was an obvious lie, and it cast doubt upon everything they imparted alongside it. The Tau civilians nearby did not even glance at the informative broadcasts, walking through the legs of warring hollows as if they were not there. Farsight knew from experience many senior Firecasts were growing tired of the constant reassurance that all was well. Even a child could see that wasn't true. The Imperial invasion was a display of vulgar but terrifying power, repelled only at a great cost. Only Farsight and his immediate team knew just how close it had come to tearing the Sept world apart completely. If not for a twist of fate that had sent the Imperials back to guard their own holdings, there would be nothing of Daleth Prime left to defend. It was a truth that no one was giving voice to, but it hung over them all like a thundercloud, no matter the Watercast's attempt to disperse it.
For how much I hate to say it, how did the Tau lose against the Imperium in this frangent? They have technologies that can counter everything the Imperium has pretty easily. Shouldn't they have won the campaign faster out?
Numbers.
For a very simple principle, Pio, that I'm sure even you can understand, and that I will let Mr. House from Fallout New Vegas explain to you.
Until the NCR showed them
Oh.
that ideological
I love men pectorals. Welcome. What the fuck are pectorals? Anyway.
Purity and shiny power armor don't count for much when you're outnumbered 15-1. The world has no use
Chest.
for emotionally unstable techno fetishists. Just wipe them out, will you?
And now we come back to the Book of Blades of Damocles, written
Don't
by
want to
writer
know.
Phil Kelly. Now, there is a reason we discarded this book when it became too lore uncompliant to be followed. And that is because Phil Kelly is literally retconning all the lore of the Tau. And for several Tau fans that I asked to help in the video, especially in locating sources, this man is the literal manifestation of Erebus before the Tau race. I have not found a single Tau fan that doesn't actively
With
hate
fun
him and
incoming.
his handling of the Tau lore and the books. But that is a secondary problem. Blades of Damocles is until now the worst 40k book I've ever read in my fucking life. This book has so little respect for your time that it is actively insulting to read it. It is over 400 pages long, and in those 400 pages you find only boredom, useless details that amount to nothing, and constant waste of time on stuff that in the end is neither interesting nor relevant to the story of the invasion of Dalit. Now, personally, I have zero interest in politics and intrigue, especially when they make up half of the fucking Tau books. That is not a complaint on the book, it is my personal taste. But here we truly went overboard. Entire chapters detailing single engagements in the most uninteresting way possible. An entire chapter wasted during an active invasion on court-martialing Farsight for saving his own life. Thing that made him in between castes for the Tau because he repaired his own battlesuit as he was drowning to save himself. And you get pulled away from the war to listen to this fucking trial. This book has so little respect for the time of the reader. There is unironically like 3 pages of Space Marine introductions in chapter 7 of 17 of the book, only for 4 of those Marines to be one-shotted by a single cannon strike from a prototype X-120 suit. This book is utter dog shit in every way conceivable. I have read a similar book with a similar premise called Rin's World, and it was unironically one of the best 40k books out of all. So my distaste of this one is purely on the shitty writing and boring narrative presented by Phil Kelly. That, by the way, retconned the end of the Dalit invasion, and especially the final attack on the capital. So, this book was shit to read, long as fuck, uninteresting, boring, and worst of all, not lore compliant.
Damn.
Pensavo di aver toccato il fondo dovendo leggere Trial of the Mantis Warriors di CSGO per la guerra di Badab, ma qui siamo veramente in una palude di merda fatta libro. Come cazzo è possibile che ho letto la lore dei Female Custodies, la merda di CSGO, lo schifo di Gav Thorpe per fare dei video, e Phil Kelly è il peggio che sono riuscito a trovare. Avrebbero dovuto assumere l'australiano a scrivere questa merda di libro. Sono sicuro che avrebbe fatto un lavoro migliore. Sono tentato di comprarmi il libro fisico per una volta. Almeno sarà utilizzato nella maniera più adeguata possibile, come carta igienica quando vado in bagno ed ho bisogno di pulirmi il culo.
Alright, let's go back. Alright. Unyielding rage!
Pensavo di aver toccato.
I thought I was grabbing the barrel when I read the Trial of the Mantis Warriors for the Badab War. How do I translate this? Equivalent would be that. Okay. Trial of the Mantis Warriors. What is trial again? Fucking. Alright. Alright. Series of challenges. No, it's fine. Ich dachte, ich war bei der untersten Schublade, wenn ich die Aufgaben des Warriors gesehen habe. Aber im Bad War.
Il fondo dovendo leggere Trial of the Mantis Warriors di CSGO per la guerra di Badab.
Oh, fuck off.
Scare you? Yeah, I bet I did.
Ma qui siamo veramente.
Swamp of shit made into book. Alright. I'm gonna go for a bit. I'll be back. Maybe. Yeah. Alright.
Aber hier sind wir im wortwörtlichen Scheißschwamm. Hold on, fuck. Scheißschlamm, wo ein Buch gemacht wurde. Okay. Aber hier sind wir im wortwörtlichen Scheißschlamm, der ins Buch gemacht wurde.
In una palude di merda fatta libro. Come cazzo?
How the fuck is it possible that I read the lore on female custodies, the shit of CSGO?
Wie zum Fick kann's sein, dass ich die Lore von den Frauen-Custodies gelesen habe von Shit of CSGO?
È possibile che ho letto la lore dei female custodies, la merda di CSGO, lo
Den Müll auf Garform, nur damit ich dieses Video machen kann.
schifo di Gav Thorpe per fare dei video e Phil Kelly è il peggio.
Und Phil Kelly ist der schlimmste von allen.
Che sono riuscito a trovare. Avrebbero dovuto assumere l'australiano a scrivere.
They should have hired the Australian to write this shitty book. I am sure he would have done a better job with it.
Die hätten den Australier anheuern sollen, um dieses Scheißbuch zu schreiben. Ich weiß, der hätte einen besseren Job gemacht.
Questa merda di libro. Sono sicuro che avrebbe fatto un lavoro migliore. Sono tentato di comprare.
I'm tempted to buy the physical version of the book for once.
Ich bin in Versuchung, das...
Oh, goddammit. How do I say that?
Ich bin in Versuchung, das richtige Buch zu kaufen. Zum ersten Mal.
Darmi il libro fisico per una volta. Almeno.
Und zumindest wird's zum ersten...
God damn it. At least it will be used in the most appropriate way possible.
Zumindest zum besten Weg überhaupt gebraucht.
Sarà utilizzato nella maniera più adeguata possibile. Come carta igienica.
Als Toilettenpapier, wenn ich zum Badezimmer gehe und mir den scheiß Arsch abwischen muss.
Quando vado in bagno ed ho bisogno di pulirmi il culo.
Given to me by myself.
You are such a good boy for cringing at this.
Is it worth it?
100 cheer 100 cheer 100 cheer 100 cheer 100 cheer 100 fuck you 100 times.
Was it worth it, Bucky? Was it worth it, monkey?
So yeah, Italian moment aside, this book is shit. Period.
To be honest, I don't like that how much, but at least they acted with honor and fought until the end as they could to defend one of their planets. That much I can respect.
The funny thing is that the first ethereal kill ever scored by the Imperium was on Dalit, and wasn't made by a space marine, strangely.
By whom then?
By a rattling sniper called Magog. During the advance on Gelbrin City, Magog and his squad were forging ahead of the main army when they spotted a column of Tau grav tanks. The column stopped and the aliens dismounted as Magog observed them. One of them was dressed in long flowing robes. The rattling guessed he was an individual of importance, and with a single shot blew his head off.
So a Tau Ethereal got killed by the equivalent of a 40k Hobbit sniper?
Exactly.
My honest reaction to this information.
Brazil taxi.
Holy shit.
This was genius. This was really, really good.
Oh my god. Damn, I should have waited after the video. Indeed. This was the Pontius 40k lore, the Damocles Golf Crusade. And it was a big piece of Tau lore. And my favorite moment was when they fucking shit their pants by the age of the, you know. Anyway. The Pontius, check him out. Leave him a like, comment, and subscribe. Yeah. Mommy, how many fingers am I holding up? I don't fucking know. One, probably the middle finger.